Bonnie McFarlane is a funny comic. She makes me laugh my freaking head off. Bonnie McFarlane is a funny comic. If she was a writer, she'd be Nabokov.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of What's So Funny, a show that talks about the funny with the people who make it happen. Well, according to TV Guide, our guest this week is a California girl, but we all know she hails from the deep, dark depths of Cold Lake, Alberta, and now chases liberty and prosperity in the Garden State. She's done it all. Fallon, Colbert, HBO, Living with Rich Vos. She's the member of the Comedic Audubon Society. She's the co-host of the long-running popular podcast, My Wife Hates Me. And also I can confidently say to our guest, Bonnie McFarlane, you're better than me. And of course, we have your host, a man so excited by social distancing because he's been forced to change nothing about his lifestyle. It's Guy McPherson.
It's like you were just listening to Bonnie and I before we started.
Yes.
My lifestyle hasn't changed at all. A couple things, Sam.
Okay.
Bonnie probably noticed this too. Audubon?
I don't know how to pronounce it.
Audubon, yeah.
Audubon.
Right,
Well,
Bonnie?
You know,
I
I'm
thought
an
it was
idiot.
just a accent issue.
It could be. But Sam and I are both from Victoria.
Yeah,
And the other
lovely.
thing was, TV Guide. You still get TV Guide?
I did some research.
Okay. I didn't know those were available online.
Yeah, great article from 2004. Bonnie refers to you as a California girl.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't think they
Yeah.
could write that anymore.
yeah.
But
No,
The
I don't.
girl
think
part.
There was a
Wrong.
very yes, slowly transitioning.
No, I mean,
I know.
now they would say California woman, yeah.
Right.
This is Bonnie is Canada's funniest new comic, so we're excited to have her on the show.
Yes. That was quite a. I really did something there.
You really did, and this has been a long time in the making because do you know we've been talking about having Bonnie on the show for how long, Bonnie? Do you know?
10 years.
You guessed it. I was thinking like 3 or 4, but I looked in my old email 10 years ago, 2010.
Wow.
And then every few years since then.
Yes.
And finally, it takes a pandemic to get Bonnie on the show.
I think it was that it wasn't the pandemic. It was that the idea of recording a podcast from different places remotely seemed very, very difficult back then.
Didn't it? Yeah. Well, there was going to be a phone, and then it was going to be what we're recording on now a couple of years ago. But then I had a doctor's appointment. You were editing something, I think.
Yeah.
I forget. But here we are, and it's great. And to our listeners who are excited that we have Dr. Bonnie Hunter on. No, it's Bonnie McFarlane.
Who's Dr. Bonnie Hunter?
She is a celebrity now in BC. What is she, Sam?
She's our public health officer.
Oh, okay.
And it's Bonnie Henry.
Oh, that's right. Bonnie Henry, not Bonnie Hunter.
Yeah,
not so famous, I guess.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, not so.
Is there a Bonnie Hunter?
Who is One Day at a Time? Was that a Bonnie?
Yes, but I don't remember her last name. But people do say that to me all the time.
Maybe
Bonnie
that was
Franklin.
Bonnie Hunter.
Bonnie
Franklin, good job.
Yes.
Yeah, the last time we were going to have you on the show, it was when your book came out, because I read your book, You're Better Than Me, and immediately thought it should be You're Better Than I. But
I had so many people
wrong.
tell me that. But the
I'm
thing
wrong.
is, are you? Because I think it actually is grammatically correct to say You're Better Than I, but it doesn't sound good to me.
It doesn't, because what is missing is You're Better Than I Am. But then
Right.
But I think both are correct. I Googled it. Both are
Look
correct.
at you.
Yeah. So you're
ready
you're all
to
right.
send off a tweet dissing me, and then dang it.
Letter to the publisher. No, it was a great book. And so I have a lot of questions about the book, even though now, how old is the book?
I don't remember when it came out, honestly, but just a few years ago, not that long ago.
Yeah. But, I don't read a lot of comedy memoirs, but I have read some. and this one is my favorite.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
And I imagine because you're a woman who doesn't like to talk about herself,
Yes.
right?
Well, my husband might disagree with you on that, but
But he's not
I have
here.
a harder time definitely being personal and sharing that. We do this podcast, my husband and I, called "My Wife Hates Me," and he's willing to share everything, like everything. He doesn't. There's no boundaries at all, and it's very upsetting to me. And in fact, the last podcast we did talk about it.
Yeah, the most recent one?
Yes.
Yeah, I heard that one.
The one we just put out. I think we put it out yesterday.
Well, I heard one a couple days ago.
Oh, so that might be the one. We do talk about it a lot. So it's possible we talked about it on both podcasts. But he's been doing these landscaping with Rich videos, and then he shows our whole house. He shows our whole yard. It's like, I don't know. I want there to be some privacy.
Oh, yeah, you don't want people driving by going, hey, that's where Bonnie and Rich live. I recognize that landscaping anywhere.
Oh, look, there's the holes they initially dug and realized it was wrong. And then there's the trees.
So maybe, you don't like to share too much about yourself, but you also have that Canadian humility.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. I was thinking too, a lot of people talk about the Mark Maron's podcast when Obama was on, and the very next guest was Rich Vos.
Yes.
and what
Keeping it
difference
real.
that's what that was. But I think the big difference was Eliza Schlesinger, and then right after that, Bonnie McFarlane.
Interesting.
Because she is all about self-promotion and confident, and you were this classic humble Canadian.
Yes.
Oh,
Well, it's weird because it's people definitely take it as that you that you don't like yourself, and it's not that at all. It's that it's just a different way of growing up. It's a different way of thinking about life, like that. I mean, Rich and I have that difference too. It's like he loves pumping himself up,
Mm-hmm.
in public. Just, funny
Yeah.
to me. I think that's why I like him, and one of the reasons why I do love him, because it's so against what we're sort of taught as Canadians, you just don't behave that way. So it's kind of exciting, I guess.
Yeah, every day.
Every day.
People, especially now, people think about how this social isolation is too much. And I just think of you having to be with Rich Vos 24/7.
You know what? I know he's not everyone's flavor. My sister, when we were getting married, said, "I'm sure glad you're the one marrying him." Thanks, Andrea. But there's nobody I'd rather be isolated with, honestly.
Oh, that's sweet. Yes, My Wife Hates Me is only the name of it, and you do argue. And
I do hate him. Don't get me wrong, but I hate a lot of people. I hate most people. And no, he's so funny. He's so aggravating all the time, but he's also like brilliantly funny a lot of the time. He makes me belly laugh.
Yeah, I saw him at the Comedy Mix a year or two ago. He came to town and performed.
Yeah.
Wearing a Rolex.
He was wearing a Rolex?
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's got a few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Understatement is not his thing. He was wearing.
So you guys are perfect.
Yes, he was. Well, it's because I have the joke about this, but he wears a lot of rings. He got into rings and jewelry after we got married, so I didn't know. He got into. He only had a few tattoos before we got married, and then now he's got he gets obsessed with things. So he got
a sleeve now.
He's got 2 sleeves, yeah, and a lot of his back.
And do you like those?
Not particular. I mean, I don't mind the sleeves. It's then he started doing the front of his chest. So when he wears a shirt that's open one button, he looks like he's been to prison. He's got that neck, very close to his neck tattoo happening.
As long as he doesn't have the teardrop.
I'm
be
sure
okay.
that's coming. I mean, that's the whole thing, I think, is to look to. I'm not sure what he's going for, honestly, but he does wear a lot of rings. And for the first couple of weeks in quarantine, he was still wearing the rings. I was like, what are you doing?
Like putting them on every day?
He never takes them off. He sleeps with them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
And
man.
then, so he finally, I think he was shamed on a couple of podcasts and he finally removed his rings just for quarantine purposes.
But they'll be back.
I mean, they will be back. Yeah. No, he would buy me jewelry and then I wouldn't want the jewelry. Like I think I started it for him, the rings thing. Cause he bought me, I had a very beautiful engagement ring and, it came off my hand once at a comedy club and I did find it again, but I put it in a safe and, just wore the band and it bothered him that I wasn't wearing my wedding ring. And, because it reflected on him. I think he felt that people looked at me and said, what, your husband couldn't afford a nice ring for you or something. So one Christmas he bought me another wedding ring to wear. And I said, I already have one. It's in the safe. I don't wear it because it's too much. And he said, well, you're going to wear this one. And I said, well, if we go to, like to visit the Obamas or something, sure. But yeah, so he got very angry. That was a Christmas we actually got into a fight because I wouldn't wear the ring. And so he took it and made it into a ring for himself. And then, yes. And then then there was a couple more items, earrings, necklace that I didn't accept and that he made into rings. So I think he was just buying me things that he could then make into rings for himself.
Exactly. I like the fact you didn't accept them.
I mean,
I'm sorry.
Because I'd already said I don't like jewelry. Like, why do you keep getting me jewelry? And then it dawned on me, he keeps getting me jewelry so that he can have it for himself.
And also, this was a joke. You said it was a joke on your album, Bird Calls, which I listened to last night, and it came out this year.
Yeah, it just came out while we were in isolation, March 20th or something.
Wow, that's great. And Alice Adore's label, was it?
Yes, yeah, Canadian
label.
Girl.
Well,
Howl and Roar Records. She was fantastic. Really great to do.
Yeah.
I've never done an album before. And she...
Great jokes.
Oh, thank you. So
yeah, she convinced you. What did it take?
Well, I was always recording and I never put an album out because I couldn't listen to them afterwards. I could never get myself to believe that they were good enough to put out. So for years and years, every couple of years I would make an album and not put it out. And then she said, just let me do it. Once I agreed to let her do it, then there was sort of no turning back. I had to, she was putting in a lot of time and effort. So I just had to do it. Well, then she said, listen to it. Let me know if there's anything that needs to be changed. And I just wrote back, sounds good to me, when I didn't listen to it. So there it is.
So this was one that you had in the bank already?
No, I recorded it. Yeah, no, we set a date and recorded it. Gosh, I don't remember when it was. Maybe like December. Oh, no, it was November of last year.
And where?
Recorded it at the Stand Comedy Club. It was during New York. What was it? New York Stand Up Week or what? New York Comedy Week or whatever it is. The Comedy Festival, New York Comedy Festival.
Well, now you have you should release all those other albums that you recorded.
God, no, would never.
No.
I mean, no. I do. I get embarrassed by material really quickly. Like people who, when people are called out for jokes that they wrote, that they're being homophobic or, whatever it is, I would immediately apologize. I would be like, yes, this is horrifying. I mean, if I ever hear myself on Sirius, I just turn it off. I'm like, I can't listen. Embarrassing.
Well, you do start off Bird Calls with a solid rape joke, Bonnie.
That one, I say, is fantastic.
Well, they're all fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. I did that. I was so scared to do that joke too. Just in general, just when I thought of it, I was like, I remember thinking, "Oh God, now you have to do it," because it made me laugh when I wrote it down. And then I was like, I was really scared to try it. You know?
Really?
So you
Because you
recorded
say
this.
those kinds of things on your podcast all the time.
Yeah,
And we get that they're
on radio
jokes.
and podcasts, I think it's a very specific audience, so I'm not worried about it. Like if you're
Oh,
listening
okay.
to my podcast, you already know, you already like this whatever Rich and I are doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know why in stand up, I get people always say, "Oh, you're fearless." I'm not at all. I get scared to do. Oh my, I have to work up the courage to do. But I personally like those kind of jokes. Like if I'm in the audience and I'm listening, that's what I would want to hear. So then I force myself to do it. I was like, there might be someone in there likes
Good.
it. Yeah.
I love them. Sam, I think you had a question.
Yeah, so you recorded this album in November of last year, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so when you wrote that joke, the one right off the top, how long before that did you write it? That you knew just I have to do
I think in the summer
this.
I
Okay.
wrote it because I had an article with the New York Times that did an art, and I had just started doing that joke, and they put
Mhm.
that in the article, and I was
That
like,
was
well,
following
it's
you
out there
around,
now.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I was like, well, it's there now. I gotta just keep doing it. But of course, comics like the joke. Comics would always come up to me and be like, "That's a good joke," you know. But
But the real, like the just comedy club audience members, do they give you any flack, or they get it too because they're going to a comedy club?
um, yeah, they do and they don't. Like you know, if they like it, they really do like it. But the problem with doing jokes that are edgy is that people are scared of. They don't have time to process if it's appropriate or not. You know, that's the whole thing with laughter. It just comes out of you or it doesn't. So they really stop themselves because they haven't had time to process if they're supposed to be laughing at it or not. And some people do get angry really quickly. You know, it's not like other kinds of entertainment, a book or, you know, a movie where if you don't like it, you stop reading, you walk out of a movie or whatever, that they feel they have to say something. They feel they're
Hmm.
heroes if they stop you, you know.
Well, well, I like the fact that you left that in on your album, and maybe you wouldn't have if you listened to it and not given the go ahead to Allison. Yeah,
Yes.
sounds great. But the audience, you had a guy interrupt you right in the middle of a bit.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, you had somebody else. You were talking about a lack of confidence. Somebody else yelled out, "Doing great, Bonnie."
I know.
You know, you had what sounded like a fart in the middle of a bit.
That I did?
No, no, not you. Sorry,
Oh.
you. But on the album, there was somebody, and you said, "Did you just fart?" And he,
Oh my
no, it was
god.
my chair. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Somebody else yelled out, "What kind of dog do you have?" So
Oh god. That's I know people do. I don't know what it is. Like I've been heckled 100% of the time. I don't know.
every
Yeah,
show.
every single show. I it's hard to like I've seen comedians come back to the table or whatever and be like I got heckled and they're angry and I'm just like what kind of life are you living that you're not heckled all the time? I'm heckled all the time. I don't know what it is. Like even if I'm doing my cleanest set, my nicest, I would did you know the gala at Montreal, and I got heckled during one of my bits in Canada. It was a vegan bit.
They were probably American tourists.
Maybe,
Yeah.
probably, but
But heckled in a most positive way, like they were with you.
those people were, but they're not always, and sometimes you don't even know if it's positive or negative. They're just I don't know if I have a certain demeanor or something where it seems like I'm not actually performing. It
That
just
is good.
that they think that it's okay to just that I'm just having a conversation that anyone can join in with. I don't know. But,
Yeah. I mean, it is good that it sounds that natural, not that people feel they can just
I mean, I don't even know
chime
if
in
that's.
whenever.
I've tried to figure it out. I don't know. I think it's like part of it is that I think people think I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I do know that I get heckled a lot. And I've asked other people if other women if that's the case for them, and it's not. So
It's just you.
it's just
How are you?
yeah.
How are you with cold reads? Can you scroll down to the bottom of the page and
You want me to do it?
yeah, go.
This is Bonnie McFarlane, and you're listening to What's So Funny on CFRO 100.5 FM, Vancouver Co-op Radio.
Oh, very good. You
Bravo.
could have said Bonnie Vos, but you go by Bonnie Vos and Bonnie McFarlane, right?
Well,
But not on stage.
on stage and in showbiz, it's still all Bonnie McFarlane, but in my real life, I'm legally Bonnie Vos.
Yeah, I would think because listening to your podcast as I have over the years and love it because I love couples who argue, like even in real life.
You
I
do?
like that dynamic. Yeah.
Well, you don't hear much of it in terms of like people that are get like it's always I mean, ours might also be an annoying thing for people to listen to. I'm not trying to take that away, but in movies and stuff, when you hear couples arguing, they're always on the verge of a divorce. It's terrible. It's not fun.
I know.
So
Well,
I
you
don't know.
guys really, really get into it. And I always imagine as soon as the podcast ends, it's like you're not talking to him for the rest of the day. That's what it feels like.
um I feel much worse after podcasts than he. I've had podcasts where I've laid on the bed for a long time just thinking about my life and how I got there. I'm crying in the shower, sort of thing. But he's fine.
Yeah, he is remarkable in that way. Like you'll get after him and then he'll just sort of laugh and change the subject.
Well,
Yeah.
I still don't know when he's joking or not.
Still, that's what keeps it fresh.
I don't know when he's I have this thing where I realize a lot of people, I think they're joking when they're telling me crazy shit, and then you find out later there was people that were sort of right wing before comedians where I thought they were brilliant. They were in my mind doing something of a character, and then with all the Trump stuff you realize like, oh my god, they're serious. They started to double down on some of the stuff that I thought was jokes. Or I've had friends that told me conspiracy theories where I think they're just like, oh yeah, of course, where you think like, oh, they're entertaining that part of their brain a little bit, but they don't really believe
Yeah.
it. And then you find out, oh no, they're in a mental institution now. They really believe that. You're like, oh, whoops.
Well, the episode that I heard a couple days ago, and you said was released yesterday, so it may be that one or maybe the one before that. But you were talking about getting an American flag, and you said, "No, not
Yes.
at our house."
Yeah, I got
Was
some
that
flack on that.
is that the most recent one, or is the one
No,
before?
there's one after that. But
Okay.
I always forget how crazy people are. Not crazy, I shouldn't say that. They're very like people are much more into what the flag represents than I am. I forget that it's like
It's
it
very
means
Canadian of you.
so much. I know. Well, I tried to explain on this podcast that in Canada we don't wrap ourselves in Canadian flags and go marching and stuff. That's not us.
No, we just get them tattooed on our calves.
What was that?
Nothing.
Okay. Yeah, it's just a piece of cloth with a maple leaf on it.
Well,
I
it's
mean,
weird. It's
we
weird to
like it,
be.
but
Yeah, it's like I understand feeling grateful about the place you were born, but to be proud is weird to me of something you didn't have anything to do with. Like you were born here, so there was nothing you could do about it unless you got old enough to move anyway.
but also as your daughter was trying to say, it represents these days something more than just you love your country.
I
It's
mean,
sort of like an implicit thumbs up to the president
yes,
of the day.
I feel like it is,
Yeah.
and it's not. That's not a good thing. I'm not happy that's the way it is, but it feels like that. Like if people have American flags, I'm a little like, uh-oh, there's a Trump supporter.
Yeah. What is it like down there now in the last month? Like, do you feel like you're in a in the apocalypse?
Like as far as the political thing goes.
Well, that wrapped up in the social isolation and the pandemic and the fears and
Well, it's so hard to wrap your brain around. I don't know. I'm sure other people are having it too, where you just keep going like, is this really happening? Every day you get up like, is this really what we're doing now? And that you still keep reading that, like I keep reading like his that Trump's um approval rating has gone down, and it'll be like he is now down to 47% approval rating. You're like, who's still approving him? 47% of people are still like, how is that
yeah.
possible? That's so crazy, so I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get how people can see the current administration is doing the right thing. But
Hmm.
I'm not rich either, so I don't know what it's like to have a lot of money and to be concerned that you're going to have less of it. And that's, I think that's all that it is. It's like people trying to not pay taxes.
Yeah, but you heard when he got elected that it was the working people, the working poor who were worried about their jobs and
See, but
losing
I
jobs.
understood that totally at that point too, that they felt like they had no choices, and this was a guy who was supposedly not a politician who was going to fight for them. But then when you see that he didn't, then wouldn't you change your, like, it is weird that people still are, Trump supporters. That poor people working against their best interests are still Trump supporters.
Hey, I wanted to get to all the questions I wrote when I was reading the book, okay?
Okay,
Even though it's a few years old now.
that's okay.
Just little notes that I jotted down along the way. I like that as a girl you identified as a boy, and if you grew up today, you might be a boy.
Yeah. Well, my daughter.
You wouldn't be given the opportunity to let that phase run through.
Um, it is true. Even when I wrote that, it wasn't such a hot button topic as it is now. And I
Right.
sometimes think back like that I might have not have thought it through enough. But I mean, that was the truth. I don't know if I was identifying as a boy because I just was like, it was all girls in my family except for my dad. Um, or I don't know. My daughter thinks my husband and I are both transitioning to the other side.
Right. Because of his rings
His rings and
and your lack of them.
yes. I don't know. I I could have just as easily, I suppose, gone through life as a dude. I don't feel that much of a woman, but I don't feel that much of a as a, you know what I mean? I don't have a strong thing one way or
Right.
another.
I feel that way too because I don't like it's not ever, I'd say, that I think, oh, yeah, I'm male. Like
Right.
I am, but I don't feel one way. Like I don't know what it feels like to feel like a woman. So I don't know, but I don't feel anything really in life. I have no emotions or anything.
Well, no, but I mean, like, people would always say, like, oh, you're a woman doing stand up or you're a female comic. It's always given that thing. And it's like, well, when I'm on stage, I'm not thinking about that. I'm
Yeah.
not thinking I'm a girl. There's been very few times where I've been on stage totally reminded that I'm female up there doing it. Usually it's because I'm wearing heels or some stupid thing.
Oh, and you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, because I don't feel like I don't feel like I'm representing anything but my own point of view, which doesn't even vibe with the other females.
No, it does not. I mean, you identify as a feminist, and as we said, rape joke off the top.
Very funny rape joke.
Very funny rape joke. Yes, it was not gratuitous, and it wasn't condoning. It wasn't anything. It was just using the word. But you know how things are today.
Right.
But yeah, most feminists would not even begin to think of that.
I guess. Yeah, I'm not trying to. I'm not. That's the other thing too is that when I started doing stand up, it was just sort of like you just were surviving along with everyone else on stage. You just were going. I mean, especially in Canada, you're doing these crazy gigs where you would do a gig in a bar, drive 4 hours the next day, do another gig in a bar, drive 5 hours, do another gig in a bar, And I don't think the audiences were that people put more emphasis on it when I got to the States, for sure. That
Emphasis on being a female?
yes, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And
Yeah.
wanting me to look a certain way, and wearing lipstick was a big issue all the time with one of my managers, and
Did you give in?
sometimes I
Yeah.
did. But the weird thing is that any time I tried to do something to please someone else, like a manager or an executive or whatever, it never worked out. It just didn't work out for me. I just never did, and it wasn't like I didn't want it to work out on purpose so that I'd be right. I just, it's like there's this one path that's meant for me, and if I just keep going on it, it works out fine. And if I try to do something different, it doesn't work out for me. It just doesn't.
To thine own self be true,
It
Bonnie.
is a weird thing, but
you also talk about in the book growing up on this farm, but it was not like anything from this century or even the last century.
I know.
And I think how cinematic this is. Was there ever talk that this could become a movie? Like, you were on this farm, there's no running water, no TV, you lived with mice.
Yes, we lived in a dirt basement. My
You
sisters and I,
shared
our
bath
basement.
water?
Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But don't you think like this could be a movie? Did
Yeah,
people talk
I
about
mean,
that?
the farther, like, I was embarrassed about it for a long time and didn't really talk about it. I did have managers and stuff that would say, when they'd hear the stories of it, they'd say, "You've got to talk about that in your act." And I just never could. I was never able to do it. I think because for a long time I was sort of embarrassed about it. And when writing the book, I realized, like, this is amazing. Like, nobody had this childhood, of this,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, like, of this generation. It's weird.
Yeah.
And it's not like we weren't like this white trash poor kind of thing. We were just truly poor people living off the earth, living off the graces of God. So it
Yeah,
was,
this was Cold Lake or nearby in Alberta.
yeah,
Yeah.
northern Alberta.
How far north is that from Edmonton?
So that would be about, I don't remember in kilometers anymore what that is, but it's about a 3.5 hour drive.
Okay. We still do both here, Bonnie.
Oh, you do?
Those of a certain age.
It's about 300 kilometers.
Oh wow! So that is
The west.
really north. Yeah. So no exaggeration in the book.
No.
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 Your sisters and parents happy with it?
Yeah, I mean, they made fun of me. Of course.
Of course.
The only thing that wasn't true was that I said we ate that cow, which we didn't. I had a cow that was my
Bessie?
Bessie was my best friend, but no, and I said we ate her, and it was funny because I meant it as a joke, and you have to go through the book with a lawyer whose job is to make sure you're telling the truth, and I had to lie to her to keep it in the book because I thought it was funny. But no, we didn't, because anyone who knows anything, you don't eat an old cow.
An old cow, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought you said a whole cow.
An old
But
cow.
you do eat whole cows.
Yeah.
So much for fact checking. They could have just called your parents.
I know. Well, also they'd say, "Did this really happen?" Because a lot of it was jokes, and you'd be like, "Well, I mean, I'm hoping people realize that's a joke." This, certain things, and after a while, I started to realize, like, if the person was dead, she just moved on. So they say, "Did this really happen to your ex-boyfriend?" Or what? I'd say, "Oh, he's dead." She'd go, "Okay, great." Because they're just worried about getting sued.
Oh man. Were you the funny one in your family? Because I know some comedians say, I was the least funny person in my family. I know Mike Myers has said that.
Oh,
But were
really?
you always the wisecracker?
I was definitely the showboat. Yeah, I did impressions of people. I kept the family pretty entertained during dinner and stuff. I also got me in a lot of trouble. My family, my dad could reach out and hit you across the head at any time during dinner to shut you up. So there was always that. You had to be aware. My family would laugh and laugh, but my mom would always say, "You go too far. You always go too far." So,
You don't know when to stop.
yes, exactly. So that was always the case. And yeah, but I put on shows that nobody wanted to see. I forced them to watch. I'd get the neighbor kids and I'd write little plays and boss people around and make them do it.
Yeah,
And
you were always writing and writing books, and
always.
so it's only natural that you wrote a book, and it's so good because you can write, unlike some other comedians who maybe
Thank
get
you.
other people to help, or else they just don't.
I'm amazed that comedians actually get ghostwriters because isn't that part of your job anyway, just on a daily basis? I don't know.
You
to
would
me
think.
to me that's always been the most fun part of stand up is the writing part of it, and then doing the stand up's always been a little too much anxiety for my tastes. Yeah.
But you never wanted, other than early days at Punchlines, to write for other comics,
Oh, I did.
or
That's
have you?
yeah, no, well, I have in more recent years. I've written for a lot of comedians and celebrities that have to do live shows and things like that. And I've written for a lot of famous comedians for their specials, for roasts,
Do you
for
get the same satisfaction, or do you just want to tell everyone that's my joke?
no, I don't. I don't have that weirdly enough. And even when I sometimes I give Rich a joke if I'm scared to do it to see if he'll do it. And he'll do it. He's not scared of anything.
Yeah,
But if it works, I feel really happy. I don't feel the need to be like, "Hey everyone, I wrote that."
yeah,
I don't know why. I just like
yeah,
that.
yeah. So I mentioned Punchlines, and you started here in Vancouver.
Hmm.
You also just mentioned Sam and I are both from Victoria, and you said you were a waitress at a tourist cafe.
Yes, that's true.
How long were you in Victoria for, and do you remember the name of the place?
I don't remember the name of the place, and I remember we had to wear peach clothing. What was the name of the place? It was right on the harbor.
Oh, is it Sam's Deli or something?
No, it was a pretty high-end restaurant. Because we
Oh.
had to I learned what reds were, which are the cloths that you use to take food out, and you couldn't take a plate or leave a plate without using those cloths, the reds as they called them.
Hmm.
Even though ours were not red, but and the chef was an ex-con, but he was, I guess, a very like well-respected chef,
I think
and
they all are.
he was a pretty big deal.
Well, what year was that?
Oh gosh. Maybe 90?
Do you know Norm Macdonald also spent some time living in Victoria?
Oh, he did.
Yeah. I don't know what year that would have been. It would have been earlier than that, for
Yeah, I
sure.
didn't meet him until probably 94, 95. I think that's when I started in 93 or 94.
Yeah,
The
so you
stand up.
moved over to Vancouver, and you were a hostess at Punchline. So maybe you sold me a ticket once,
Perhaps.
perhaps. And you say in there that you just looked up and you thought, oh, these guys are great. Do you remember any of the names? Because you didn't mention them in the book.
Ian Bagg was one of the
Ian Bag.
comedians. Oh my
Great.
God. Fantastic. I mean, I just remember
Yeah.
being blown away by literally every single person who got on that stage.
Right.
Craig Campbell uh,
Oh,
was one of the comedians there. And they'd been doing it about 4 years, I think. And I remember thinking, 4 years, they're still here. Like, wow, that's crazy. But I also thought they were good enough to perform anywhere. Like I kept saying, why aren't you on, the Tonight shows?
I was just saying, we had Colin Mockery on last week, from
I
Vancouver.
remember him too.
10 years before that or more, I would go to Punchlines and see Ryan Stiles as a
Ryan Stiles
stand-up.
was one of the funniest guys I remember seeing
I
at that
used to
time.
sit
Oh,
there looking up at him going, "Why isn't this guy on TV? Why isn't he famous? He's
yeah.
so funny." Yeah.
And he was funny in a way that was almost like, even now it would be completely high quality kind of stand up.
Hmm.
It wasn't like of a time.
Hmm.
He was I
Yeah.
thought he was brilliant. Yeah.
Well, I'd love to hear a recording or see him from that time because our memories are faulty. Like Colin Campbell was another guy that I used to
Oh
think was
yes, he was
amazing.
really great. So I hung out with him a few times.
Did you?
Mhm.
Yeah. I played basketball with him once in Victoria. He was pretty good. I'd love to hear because I don't know if it's just my memory or if it would hold up today.
I think that too, because I was like, how did I think these guys were so good? Because now when I see guys that have been doing it around, between 2 and 4 years, I think, oh, they need a lot of work. I don't think
Hmm.
they're incredible. And the other thing that I look back and think, I never cared what the audience was doing in any way. Like, I mean, I just liked the performer. Or I didn't. Sometimes they'd come on stage and
Exactly.
say I bombed, and I'd be like, "You did?" I wasn't paying attention at all to what the rest of the
Yeah.
audience was doing.
Who cares what they think?
Yes, right.
Yeah. I know I've judged some comedy competitions and a lot of them have a category for audience response. And I always say, hey, who cares?
Yeah,
You know, it doesn't matter because you could go up there and make fart noises and the audience would laugh.
Oh, they would
I
so
don't
much.
care.
yeah, yeah. No, I never. It never affected what I thought of a performer. I just liked her. I didn't like whatever I was seeing, but I really liked it immediately. Stand up. I just
Yeah.
thought it was such an incredible thing people were doing.
You liked it so much that you started it, but I mean, once you start going to comedy regularly, you start thinking like a comedian, and then you were jotting down jokes and thinking,
Well, I was
I
gonna.
could sell I
Yes,
could sell some of these, or else I could perform them myself.
I never thought of performing myself. I just never. I was not that person. I didn't. I didn't think. I was a writer in my mind. And
Mm.
I remember trying to give jokes to the other comedians. Oh, Bruce, something Bruce.
Bruce
God.
Gammy,
No, yeah,
David
yeah.
Bruce,
One of his jokes was I have two first names. So I think his last name was
Mm.
Bruce.
David Bruce.
Maybe it was David Bruce.
He
Anyway,
was
he was
around.
a he was a, he was a he did a lot of emceeing there at the club, and he was the one who was like, "You're crazy! Like, no, we can't afford to buy jokes. That's just an insane thing." So he was really the only one who kind of even looked at the jokes, and he told me to do them, and then I didn't for like a year because
Then you went to
I
Yuck
had
Yucks
yeah, and then I did it again because I got in trouble. I got fired from Punchline for
by Rich Elwood.
yeah, for dating one of the comedians,
Oh
Who did you
no.
date?
Craig Campbell.
Oh, and he's in England now,
Yeah.
married.
And he's changed his whole performance style. He used to be a very kind of one-liner comic, very good writer.
Oh, did he? Yeah,
Yes.
now he's a real storyteller and he's
Yes.
got long wild hair. He used to be clean cut guy.
Well, I haven't seen him in years and years. I have no idea. That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Rich didn't like the fact that you were dating a comic and you were working selling tickets.
Yeah, there was a pretty strict rule right when I got there. That's was like no dating the comedians, no fraternizing with the comedians, and yeah, I broke the rule. And
Mm.
I went on a gig with him, and then I missed when I either missed my shift completely. I didn't get back in time, or I was late. Anyway, that's how they found out.
Oh.
Someone told on me or
It's
something.
funny they didn't fire him.
Oh no, that was fine.
No.
But they did when I started doing stand up. So then I did stand up at Yuck Yucks for quite a while, and then they started letting me come back to do open mics and stuff, and then they started. They actually were really kind to me. They didn't hold it
Yuck Yucks.
against
Who
me.
was the manager there?
No,
It wasn't Mark
Yuck Yucks,
Dennison, was
but
it?
the Punchline let me come back and do open mics, and they started putting me on weekends and doing guest spots and stuff. And then I really
Oh, okay.
very immediately started going on the road with other comedians, and I would do half an hour. And I think back now, how I can barely do half an hour now. How was I doing it then? What was I talking about? And I wore a 3-piece suit. I mean, just
Oh,
insane.
classy.
So
Wow.
crazy.
You went on the road with an insult comic. I can't think who that would be. Now, you don't need to tell me the names, but I'd love it if you did.
I don't
Because
remember
in the
who
book,
that.
you don't. Okay.
I don't remember the names of everyone, but I went on the road with a juggler who I don't remember his name, but that's where I learned to juggle. Everyone taught me something. I mean, that's one thing I did start to
It's a good
realize
skill.
is that I don't know if it's men or those were the only comedians I was traveling with at the time, but they really loved to tell you everything they knew about stand-up. And back then I was soaking it up. I loved it.
Right. And any good advice?
Yeah, I got a lot of good advice. I remember getting the advice that ironic observations never get a laugh. You can put them in if you want, but they're never going to get a laugh. I still think about that. I think that was Ron Beaudry.
Oh, Ron. He's back in town now.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's
In
living in Vancouver.
I remember thinking he was one of the funniest people I'd ever seen also at the time.
Yeah. Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
Of course, you couldn't mention all these names in your book because people would go, these names don't mean anything to me.
Well, I think I did originally have everybody's names in, and then I was instructed to change people's names or take them out.
Like your ex-boyfriend, Justin.
Yeah, it was Jason. His name is Jason.
Oh,
Not
it was
that
a
big
real
of a...
big change.
Yeah.
And I liked later in the book, you said this a female comic did your Canadian joke that you were struggling with and killed.
Yes. Yeah, I can't tell you who that is because I still talk to her sometimes.
Oh, okay. And I was thinking maybe she was just trying to prove to you that it was funny rather than
I
stealing it.
wonder. I've never brought it up to her.
Really?
Mm-mm.
And she hasn't read the book?
I don't think so, but I hadn't seen her in years and years and years, and then I wrote something for her pretty recently. I don't want to say what it was because it'll give it away, but and then so we sort of got back in contact again, and I've since written a couple of other things for her, and yeah, it's weird because I really only talked to her in all that time a few times, and I never brought it up. But yeah, I think honestly she's a little nuts. Like I think she was like, I think it was new, and she was like, I'm gonna just kind of show you how we do stuff here. I mean, I'm sure there's stories about me doing that to other people in a way that I didn't think I was. One time I went on stage and the MC was new, and it was funny because he came up to Rich and I and he said, "Oh my God, I'm a fan." He was like very excited, and Rich goes, "Back off." To the guy, and it hurt his feelings. You could see we were being funny. I mean, I was laughing at Rich doing it.
Yeah.
I wasn't joining in, but I was being part of that bully team. And then he asked me for my intro, so I gave my intro, and then he went on stage and gave another intro. So I went on stage and I was like, I called him back into the room and I said, why would you ask my intro if you're just going to say anything you want? And I was being funny, but the audience, he didn't say anything. He apologized, I think, earnestly. Like
Right.
He was new enough to not know that I was joking, and the audience then didn't know I was joking. And so then I kind of had to double down and then use a good portion of my set to make fun of the guy and win the audience back. And when I got off, he had to switch people, but then I was sitting at the bar eating my salad or whatever, and I looked out the front windows of the club. It was Stand Up New York, and he was out there talking to someone, gesticulating, he was definitely telling the guy that I had been an asshole to
Wow.
him.
Wait for his memoir.
Well, we've since become very good friends with him. He's a really great, very, very funny guy. So it just was.
Don't you find though, like comedians love busting each other's balls, so to speak, but also very sensitive.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole thing is that you're protecting that thing inside of you that can easily be hurt. So you're always, lashing out so no one gets you.
There was also a female comic, maybe it was the same one, I'm not sure, in Long Island, who told you she had enough friends. Maybe she was being funny like Rich was.
No, I think she was really trying to tell me in a nice way to stop bothering her. I think she was because I'd come to New York, I didn't have any friends, and one of the first weekends that I had was on Long Island at this club, and she was there, and I thought she was really funny and very cool, and I tried to be friends with her there, and she didn't want to be friends with me there. I knew that she didn't. I could tell, but I was a little desperate, so I sort of kept following her around, and I don't know how I got her phone number. I must have forced her to give me her phone number, but then I called a couple times. She never answered, and then the third time or so, I said, "Hey," because she had told me at the club. I said, "Where do you get your jacket? It's so cute." I was really trying, and she was like, "I go to thrift stores." So I called her and I said, "Hey, do you want to go to a thrift store today with me?" And she goes, "Listen, I have enough friends, okay?" And I was like, "Oh." But then I had to keep seeing her at clubs, and I just try to not bother her, wave to her from I'm going this way now. Thanks.
Do you see her now?
Yeah, she became a very big name in comedy.
But it's funny, like you don't name a lot of these people, but you named Janine Garofalo, and that wasn't
Well,
a great meeting.
yeah, huh. Well, I think though because I was just so starstruck by her that I don't know. She read the book and she texted me and was like, "I'm an asshole. You're the greatest." And I was like, "That's not really what I didn't want you to say that." you know. But she's one of my favorite people. I see her all the time in the clubs and stuff, and I still think she's one of the funniest people on the planet.
Well, now that you're well known, they're trying to make amends.
What do you mean?
Well, when you weren't well known, they wouldn't give you the time of day, but now you've established yourself, and so they can look back and go, "Yeah, I was an asshole."
Oh yeah. Well, except the ones that don't know. I gave some pretty good clues though for the one girl in Long Island. I can't believe you didn't pick up on it.
Oh, okay. I'll have to go back and reread that. So you started like, oh, geez, we're running out of time, but you only were at it 6 months when you started going on the road. Like, where were you going? All throughout BC, like Williams Lake and all those places.
Yes, we did a lot of BC. Did we do? I might have done Alberta too. Then I moved. Then I did. Then I won the contest, and I went to Toronto, and I never went back. So then I did a lot of Eastern gigs, and then oh yeah, then I did fly to Edmonton. I flew back and did all those rooms in Alberta, and
Mm-hmm.
I never did Winnipeg. A lot of people did.
Yeah, they people love that room there, that
Rumors?
club. Rumors,
Yeah.
is it?
Yeah.
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 Have you worked there, Sam?
No, goodness, I'm not allowed in Winnipeg anymore.
Why? What happened?
No, just yeah. The only time I went there was with my ex, and I don't want to go back.
Oh, it's your own imposed exile.
Yeah,
Oh, I see.
yeah, self-exile
Okay.
from the peg.
right.
From the pain and the memories. Okay.
You but what I love about you the most, Bonnie, is you don't like earnestness. I've heard you say this many times.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a negative word to me. All right, and maybe it is in general, but when somebody's just so earnest, it really irks me.
Especially in comedy, there's no room for it.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not.
There's no room for earnestness.
It's not.
Exactly.
It's the wrong venue. I mean, I don't like it anywhere, but especially like I've seen people get applause breaks saying something earnest on stage, and I think they should be escorted off immediately.
Where's the joke?
Yeah, it's like that's not. And you know what? This is amazing to me because people will get mad at jokes, but they won't get mad at earnestness. Nobody's ever stood up and be like, "No, that's not what I came for." Is this, applauding the, frontline workers? Okay, no.
No, it wasn't very funny, but he was so
We sure
real.
applauded a lot.
He was spot on.
I learned so much about him.
Seems like a nice guy. Yeah. No, I remember hearing somebody bring up. This was just right around the time when, right after the towers came down, and she brought it up, and I was like, "Oh, damn! This is ballsy." But there was no joke. I ran over to the stage. I was like, I can't miss this.
And nothing.
Just an applause break. I was like, go to hell.
Give it up for the first responders.
I never.
Yeah.
I know, it's like I still wake up at night and think about her sometimes. How dare you make me leave my conversation and go to the stage?
Jokes over truth, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So this lately, with the storytelling phase of comedy that we seem to be in, you must not like that as much.
I've never been too much of a fan of storytelling kind of comedy. I like jokes. That's always been my thing. But I will say, there in years, it's been this like wave of truth in comedy. It's all anybody wants to talk about. How to become a good comedy. Tell your truth. And I just think your truth could also be, this is the kind of comedy you love. That could be a truth.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be
Exactly.
autobiographical all the time. It's insane.
Yeah.
If something is going to make a better joke, change it. That's what you do. That's what you are. You're a writer.
And it does tell the audience, I've always said, something about the comedian. It tells you about how their brain works, how they think, how they see the world.
How they see the world. Yeah. Your point of view is far more important than what the actual truth is.
Hey, tell me, true or false, when you got your deal at JFL, you called your mom to tell her, and your mom asked, "What's NBC?"
Yes. It was CBS.
That is true. Oh, CBS. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. I would send home, when I got a TV show later, and then I would send home actual like VHS tapes of it so they could watch it. And I'd call and say, "Did you watch the tape? Did you see it? Oh, Bonnie, we're in the middle of harvest. We don't have time." I don't know that they ever watched it. I don't think they ever did.
Oh, geez.
This is like Allison asking you how you liked your own album. Yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah, I know. I've turned into my own parents.
What was the TV show?
That was a show on UPN, which is now the WB, I think, and it was called Social Studies. So,
Sitcom.
A sitcom, yeah.
Yeah. Was it good?
No, it wasn't. And I didn't like it. And this is the problem that I have still to this day, is that I can't hide my displeasure very well.
In acting. Like if the lines are weak, people know that you're not happy with it.
I never wanted to be an actor to begin with, and then I kept going out on these auditions, and then I would get very close to getting the part, or sometimes I got the part, and if I didn't get the part, if I didn't like the part and didn't want to go out for it, my manager would get really mad at me. And one time I didn't get the part, and he accused me of throwing it, which I never did. I always tried to do my best, but I just didn't like it. I just didn't think it was a fun. That's not what I got into stand up for. And so I remember one time one of the producers, I was complaining about a script, or probably my wardrobe. I complained about my wardrobe a lot. They would put makeup on me, I would complain about that. I mean, I was a real nightmare. And she said, maybe if we paid you in cash, you'd change your mind. I was like, and true. Yeah. But I still have it where it doesn't money doesn't make a difference in my mind when I'm complaining about things. It doesn't, I don't have that thing where I'm like, oh, just do it and make the money and you're fine. It's like if I like doing it, I'm good at doing it. And if I don't like doing it, I can't help but be an asshole about it.
Hence, you're not rich, as you said
I
earlier.
am not rich. No.
Uh,
I'm not rich and I'm not rich.
Another factoid, Bonnie McFarlane. She had a great episode of Comics where her B-roll was behind the scenes stuff where the late Steve Schuster, son of Frank Schuster, of course, played the guy who wrote all her material.
Oh, that's right. Oh, I forgot about that. Wow.
That is a memory from Harry Dupe, who's been a guest on our show like 6, 7, 8 times.
Oh, yeah. Harry Dupe and I used to pal around a lot. I went on the road with them for 9 weeks once or something like that.
Really? Yeah.
Crazy thing.
Yeah, he was saying that you were out, the two of you and Eric Tunney.
Yes. Yeah.
And Mo Berg came in, Mo Berg of The Pursuit of Happiness.
Oh, yeah.
And told you that he had written a song about you.
Yes.
Is that a good song? Do you remember that
I
song?
don't know
I haven't
the
heard
song.
it. Oh.
But yes.
I'm going to find it and I'm going to put it at the top of the show.
I've heard it before, but I can't remember it. But it does say something about Bonnie McFarlane is very funny. I think there's just one line in it like that.
Perfect. I like The Pursuit of Happiness.
Yes. They're fantastic. They like me.
I mean, they're not a band anymore, but I recently went back to listen to the band to the album that was a hit, and it still stands up. I like it a lot.
Oh, good.
We didn't even talk about in this hour your film, Women Aren't Funny. Did I get the title right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I saw that when it came out again. That was pre-book, right?
Yeah, that was before the book. That was
2012.
And I remember liking it a lot. Is it still out there available?
It's available. It's on Amazon Prime, or you can go to Sundance Now. It's available. It's available a lot of different weird things, but I don't remember them all. But Sundance Now and Amazon Prime, you can get it. It was on Netflix for a time, but then they took it off.
Well, I get Amazon Prime. I'll go back and watch it. Now, there's going to be no more live stand-up comedy ever in history. So, what do you plan to do?
Not for 300 years. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
So, well, I know the movie industry, TV industry, they've shut down. They'll be back. But were you working on a show or pilot or something?
I was the head writer on Nikki Glazer's new upcoming show, and that got furloughed. And then I just found out a couple of days ago that it is not coming back.
Oh, it's not?
No.
I liked her old show.
Not Safe? I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
I love Nikki. Yeah. She's great. We're very,
great.
very good friends. And I think she's super, super talented. And like literally can, do anything. And we're working on something else together that I think might have legs. So we'll see. But I don't know.
Nikki.
I mean, we want to do something together. I think we work really well together. And then I don't know. Before I was directing some commercials, and I was doing writing for some other things, and I don't know. I just have no idea if it's still a thing. I don't know.
I would love to see. Well, you just released this comedy album, a Netflix special.
I would love to do a Netflix special. Let them know.
Yeah.
You think that more likely something like Dr. Katz will come back? Where everyone's doing material, but with squiggle vision, so audience isn't necessary.
Well, they even before this, that was what a lot of companies were looking for.
Yeah.
A way to repackage stand up so that it wasn't just like this strip stand-up show. Because stand-up still does really, really well for, that's why Netflix does so much of
It's
it.
so cheap to produce, right?
It's the content is, we provide everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, yes, I definitely think that's probably going to be, the mind of a stand-up is going to still be tapped into.
Good.
You did Dr. Katz, didn't you?
Yeah, I
remember that.
did. Yeah, and then I just did something more recently with Jonathan, and he's a great guy.
He's so funny.
He's a great guy, and
me
what I
away.
admire most about him is he was a championship ping pong player.
He was?
He
Yep.
was great.
Wow, I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Very good collegiate
There you
ping
go.
ponger.
He liked me because we worked at Bananas this was when I first got to New York too. So I don't know how many months after I got there, but probably around 5 or 6 months after I got to New York, and we were in Bananas, which is in New Jersey, and for whatever reason, I don't know if you guys know this guy Rob McNaughty, but
No.
I don't know where he is now, but he was like Dane Cook before Dane Cook. I mean, he was like high energy, and they had him opening for Jonathan Katz. So the thing was is that Jonathan Katz was going to have a little bit of trouble anyway because it's a New Jersey audience. It's like a lot of
Right.
drinking, and so what he asked me to do was to do my time in between instead of at the front. So I just do a little bit of time, bring Rob McNaughty on. He would literally, destroy the place, kill. Then I would go on and do my 15 minutes and die pretty solid death. And then bring Jonathan on and he would do fine. So he always, I think, was appreciative that I was willing to do that for him. But it didn't matter. I was like, I'm going to die no matter where I go. So it really didn't matter to me.
I think you're exaggerating, probably.
I don't remember doing very well in those clubs, even
Right.
3 years ago.
Was it the fact that Katz is low energy and the other guy's high energy, or just that the other guy killed that was the problem?
I mean, it's really hard when you get the audience into that kind of comedy where it's more about, the physicality of the performer, and it's sort of like
Yeah.
it's easy to you can drink and maybe even have a little bit of a conversation with the person next to you, because that person on stage is loud and you can tune in anytime and you're still getting what's happening. And then a monologist goes on and you have to pay attention. It's hard to do that after somebody who's very loud and physical.
Right. But then you couldn't go the other way and have Todd Barry opening for Jonathan Katz.
That would have been a better system, I think.
Well, better suited for sure, but would it be too much of the same pace and style?
Maybe Todd Barry wouldn't be the best, but somebody there's a lot of comedians that are just joke tellers or calm storytellers that would have worked. Jonathan Katz really funny. I mean, it's not like he didn't get laughs. He did, but it was harder to get the audience's attention back. A lot of comedians bring their own opener, and the reason is because that opener works for them.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to bring an opener, I want somebody who's telling jokes, because then it gets the audience into that frame of mind. Oh, this is what's happening. You don't want an opener that's going to do all crowd work and then you go on and you're just telling jokes. It's hard for the audience to not have the performer pay attention to them anymore after they've had that.
So if we ever go back to stand up again, and I'm sure we will, but I mean, when was the last time you played Vancouver?
Oh, I don't know. Many
90s?
years. Maybe. Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, like is there a chance that you'll come out here and perform?
Well, the thing is that the times that I've had people reach out to me to do stand up there, it hasn't been financially. Rich has gone back a couple of times. I think that what happened was is that before I had the baby, I just couldn't make it work financially. And then I had Raina. So then it was really hard because I had to stop doing stand up where I went on a plane because it was costing too much money to take her with me. And Rich is on the road every weekend. So,
right. So you had to take a back seat.
I just only did local. Yeah. I just stopped going on the road pretty much, unless it was like sometimes, there'd be a corporate gig or something where they would pay me a lot of money and I would figure it out and make it work. But otherwise, no.
Now that Raina's becoming a teenager soon, maybe you can get back out on the road.
It's almost harder now in a way because she's too old for a babysitter, but too young to stay by herself.
So in a few years, though.
But when she comes with me on gigs, it's like she came to Ohio because that was really a cheap flight. I mean, we have fun. We like it. We like hanging out together.
Bet. Yeah, that's great. Well, Bonnie, you've been very earnest this episode.
God damn you.
So thank you for that.
No.
Thank you for staying overtime.
I loved it.
And yeah, it was great. Finally.
Yes.
Finally, we got the Bonnie McFarlane episode.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And now get back. So people should listen to My Wife Hates Me.
I guess.
They really should.
They want
It's
to.
great. You've been doing that 6 years.
I guess so. If you say so.
Just follow Bonnie on Twitter and wherever else she is. I don't know.
Instagram.
Just Google Bonnie McFarlane.
That's right. McFarlane. I just spelled my name. Because you said Google Bonnie McFarlane. I didn't want to Google Bonnie McFarlane.
From The Walking Dead.
I bet you it would show up.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm a Mac. You're a Muck. All right. Thanks, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Thanks to Bonnie McFarlane, MC, not MAC. Great talking to her after all these years of trying to get her on the show. Next week, our guest is another comic who got his start right here in Vancouver and now living in the U.S., only in the West Coast, California. It's old pal Lachlan Patterson next week on What's So Funny. Thanks for listening. So long.